Meeting of the Boston School Committee. I'm Chairperson Jerry Robinson. We'll begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I want to welcome everyone who is joining us tonight in person, on Boston City TV, and on Zoom. I'm going to ask everyone here in the chamber to please turn off the volume on your laptops or other devices so it does not interfere with the audio for tonight's meeting. Thank you for your cooperation. Tonight's meeting documents are posted on the committee's webpage, bostonpublicschools.org/schoolcommittee, under the July 17th meeting link. For those joining us in person, you can access the meeting documents by scanning the QR code that's posted by the doors. The meeting documents have been translated into all of the major BPS languages. Any translations that are not ready prior to the start of the meeting will be posted as soon as they are finalized. The meeting will be rebroadcast on Boston City TV and posted on the school committee's webpage and on YouTube. The recording will be available in all of the BPS languages. The committee is pleased to offer live simultaneous interpretation virtually in Spanish, Haitian Creole, Cabo Verdeano, Cantonese, Mandarin, Vietnamese, and American Sign Language. The Zoom interpretation feature has been activated. Zoom participants should click the globe icon at the bottom of your screen to select your language preference. I'd like to remind everyone to speak at a slower pace to assist our interpreters. We'll begin the meeting with the approval of minutes. I will now entertain a motion to approve the minutes of the June 17th, 2024 school committee meeting. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion or objection to the motion? Is there any objection to approving the motion by unanimous account? Hearing none, the minutes are approved. We'll now move on to the superintendent's report. I present to you our superintendent, Mary Skipper.
Thank you, Chair. It's going to be a bit of a lengthy report this evening as we have a number of topics to cover, but I wanted to begin by just taking a moment and expressing my deep sadness about the passing of a beloved member of our district's technology team, Andy Horgan. Andy was the backbone of the Office of Instructional and Informational Technology, which we know as OIIT, and worked at BPS for 25 years. He began when the internet was first making its way into our schools through dial-up modems and desktops. He continued to guide BPS forward for the next 20 years. I got to know Andy during my early years in BPS, and we grew together with technology for sure, but you couldn't find a more loyal, dedicated, caring person, and really just the epitome of a professional than Andy. He cared deeply about our students and our families, and he was committed to supporting them and making sure that they had the tools they needed to succeed. Nothing pleased him more than to know he was helping a child get connected or a family get connected to information. During the pandemic, he spent a lot of time in the parking lot of the Campbell Building in Dorchester, talking with students, families, and caregivers, really ensuring that they had laptops, that they had hotspots, that they had access to the resources they needed to keep their learning remotely. Please join me in sending our thoughts and condolences to Andy's family, especially his wife, Audrey. She's also a second grade teacher at the Bates School in Roslindale, as well as to his many friends throughout the district and outside of the district, and especially Andy's colleagues in BPS technology. Chair, with your permission, I'd like to hold a moment of silence for Andy.
Yes, please do.
Thank you. Tonight is also the last school committee meeting for BPS Technology Director and Chief Information Officer Mark Racine. He is the person who's been behind the scenes at each school committee meeting, who makes sure that everything works smoothly for us here in this room and for those of you watching at home. Managing the technology behind this meeting is just one of the many aspects of Mark's job as it's evolved over the years as the leader of our Information and Instructional Technology Unit. And he's been doing that job for 10 years and supporting school committee, as Mark and I were talking about, 14 years. He began his career as a 5th grade teacher at the Orenberger School in West Roxbury, and he later taught 5th grade at the Blackstone School. In 2011, he joined the Central Office's OIT team, where he served in several roles, eventually becoming the director. And I had the privilege of working with Mark for many of those years. Technology changes fast, and under Mark's leadership, this district has stayed one step ahead, always. He's been there to help us implement and adapt with patience and always with support. Mark always puts students first, and he's prioritized their privacy and their safety over those many years. During the pandemic, he acted quickly to ensure every student had access to a Chromebook so that they could continue to learn remotely. This was a massive, unprecedented undertaking. We're grateful for his leadership during this very challenging time, and honestly, his leadership every day. He's respected, he's a well-beloved colleague, and he will very much be missed, especially by me. Please join me in thanking Mark for his hard work over his many, many years in BPS, and know that we wish you, Mark, the best of luck in whatever that next adventure is. I'd like to begin my superintendent's report with an update on the first week of this year's summer programming, which we're calling the best summer ever. Summer programming began on Monday, July 8th, and I'm happy to report that it's off to a terrific start. School may not be in session, but the learning continues, and the BPS team is hard at work to give our students and families a wide variety of opportunities and activities this summer that are both enriching and fun. Earlier this week, I joined Mayor Wu and our partner, Boston After School and Beyond, Chris Smith, for an event at Courageous Sailing in Charlestown, where 5th grade campers showed us what they had learned about sailing. The students had become so good at sailing that they did most of the work on the boats, and I can attest to that with the 2 students that I had on my boat. They kept us safe the entire time. The program also brings in representatives from places like Boston Water and Sewer to teach about environmental safety on top of learning how to sail. Thanks to the commitment of dozens of partners, we are offering more than 130 programs at 88 sites around the city and at 55 Boston Public Schools and an additional 32 sites like Courageous Sailing. In total, there are more than 14,000 students engaged in a variety of educational programs as part of what we call our 5th quarter programming. And that includes our summer learning academies, our course in high school credit recovery, our early childhood education programming, our exam school initiative, and all kinds of recreational opportunities that are supported by our BPS partners. We offer a wide range of options, so there's something fun for everyone, including athletics, entrepreneurship, literacy development, earn and learn, experiential learning, mental health supports, and career exploration. Chief Magali Sanchez, Deputy Ana Tavares have just been amazing in ensuring, along with our site directors, that it's flawless this summer and that, most important students are at the center in their learning and their experiences. Few examples, we had more than 100 students participated in the Office of Student Support's You Got It Girl program at Emmanuel College in the Fenway over the past 2 weeks. This is now in its 2nd year. Chief Corey McCarthy's been spearheading this program. Basketball, yoga, double dutch are offered daily under the supervision of dedicated coaches. This week, they added social skill groups from Franciscan Children's Hospital and some mindful resilience sessions with Coach Leah, a BPS teacher at BLS. And on Fridays, campers are thrilled to participate in a theme day. Last week was Crazy Hair Day. As you can see from the slides, there's just so much activity, fun, smiles, learning, companionship between kids. In our extended school year, this year, we had 5,007 students who were eligible to participate in our extended school year programming to ensure special education students continue to receive services during the summer months and maintain key skills. Last week, 1,679 students participated in this program, and we expect that number to increase this week. In addition, 2,857 students have actually RSVP'd that they intend to participate in the program this summer, and that's one of the largest numbers ever. I want to share a few photos with you from the McKay ESY site of students who earned a visit to the school store as part of the School-Wide Rewards program. Developed by the program's directors, School-Wide Rewards is designed to help students improve their academic, social, communication, self-regulation, life skills, safety, and vocational learning opportunities during the school day. This is an activity that brings joy to the students while they learn. One student appears to have decided on the sunglasses, which was a very wise choice given the weather. Within the summer program sponsored by the Office of Multilingual and Multicultural Education, or what we call OMME, this is also part of the fifth quarter. There are 2,080 multilingual learners registered. Overall, there are 5,163 multilingual learners registered across all programs, or 37% of the total number of registered students. Thanks to OMME team's intentional recruitment, the percentage of participating multilingual learners this summer is actually higher than the district percentage of multilingual learners in BPS, which is at 31%. Additionally, the 37% includes only students identified as current English learners. If we also include former English learners, that number goes up to nearly 47%. I want to take a moment and acknowledge the work of Chief of Office of Multicultural and Multilingual Education, Joelle Gamir, and her team for their commitment to inclusivity and their targeted outreach. They're making sure that multilingual students are well represented and supported in our summer programs. We also have more than 3,400 students registered to take part in our summer learning academies as fifth quarter programming, and about 3,000 students for course completion and high school credit recovery. And that's a number that I'm really happy about, because it makes sure that our high school students are making up credit so that they can continue to be promoted and make progress toward graduation. This summer, BPS Transportation is providing transportation to nearly 3,000 students for BPS and charter school students participating in extended school year, students attending the exam school initiative, and students attending summer programs at out-of-district special education schools. With the start of summer transportation, BPS Transportation began our use of Zoom, not to be confused ZOOM, but ZUM, which is an integrated transportation platform which includes the introduction of GPS navigation tablets on our school buses and the Zoom mobile app for BPS parents and guardians. With the Zoom app, parents and guardians can view their students' bus assignment, track bus rides in real time, receive automated delay notifications and alerts when the buses are arriving, and get notified when the student gets on and off the school bus. By the end of the first week of its use, nearly 90% of bus drivers working this summer were able to successfully utilize the Zoom system while completing their routes. In partnership with TransDev, we're working to ensure all bus drivers and transportation staff receive the necessary training and support to successfully utilize the platform prior to the start of the 24-25 school year. With this Zoom app, we're committed to improving transparency, reliability, and convenience for students and families who use the BPS school bus. And just a huge shout out to Dan and to the entire transportation team for really being innovative, thinking ahead, and really trying new and different ways to be able to support our families. The Exam School Initiative, or what we call ESI, is a BPS equity initiative within the Office of Opportunity Gaps to diversify the BPS exam school admissions. ESI is designed to increase opportunities for students from traditionally underrepresented communities. Black and Latinx students, students with IEPs, multilingual students, Asian American and Pacific Islander students, and students experiencing low income status. The ESI program is a targeted invitation-only 4-week summer course for current 4th, 5th, and 7th grade students designed to build upon their capacity for the academic rigor required when applying to the city's 3 exam schools. And this year we added STEM and arts experiences to the ESI schedule to enhance student analytic and creative thinking. This year, 351 students are registered to participate in ESI. Initially, we had 279 students who were registered, but we were able to increase that number to offer the opportunity to more students. And so this increase from 197 registrations during the summer of 2023. So as you can see, that program's really in demand, and we're trying to meet that demand. Last week, BPS and the City of Boston celebrated the launch of the Boston Summer Eats initiative. This is an effort to close the summer food gap by providing free, freshly prepared meals at locations such as community centers and schools. A partnership of BPS, the Mayor's Office of Food Justice, the YMCA of Greater Boston, Boston Centers for Youth and Families, and Project Bread. These all support the statewide program in partnership with the Department of Elementary and Secondary Ed and hundreds of meal providers in Massachusetts. The free program, which provides free meals for all Bostonians 18 and under, kicked off at the Mildred Ave K-8 school at an event that featured a puppet show, food tastings, and a healthy, nutritious, locally sourced meal. Going forward, BPS will offer a free breakfast and lunch to all Boston youth ages 18 and under at more than 100 locations across the city, including our summer program sites, until late August. No identification or pre-registration is required, and for a list of the sites, you can go to projectbread.org/summereats. Job applications for summer youth employment are now closed, and a lot of programs have started over the past couple weeks. According to data from the City of Boston, about 6,000 youth have already been successfully hired by over 115 programs in the city. Of those, more than 50% are BPS students. The city is finalizing the onboarding for all the remaining youth selected in the next couple of weeks as programs continue to ramp up. Our city partners will share final hired numbers and BPS impact at the end of the summer once all partners have been audited. And now something close to Chair Robinson's heart, you may begin seeing the iconic BPS yellow t-shirts around town, which speaks to the annual Countdown to Kindergarten program, and this is fully underway. BPS will be hosting kindergarten days throughout the month of August at BPL branches across the city. As of the week of July 8th, 6,363 students have been assigned to the district's early learning programs for the upcoming SY24-25 year, including both returning and new students and early childhood and special ed placements. We have 350 students assigned to K0, 2,405 students assigned to K1, and 3,608 students assigned to K2. Those numbers constantly change and increase, but that's what we had as of July 8th. Incoming BPS students will receive information by mail about their local kindergarten day, where Countdown staff will be leading fun activities and will be available to answer questions from families. Families are encouraged to visit our newly revised website, which is at countdowntokindergarten.org. There you'll find more details on our programming, playgroups, kindergarten transition activities, and registration information. All new incoming kindergartners will receive an invitation for the Sea of Yellow citywide kindergarten celebration on Friday, September 6th from 4:30 to 7:30 at the Boston Children's Museum. The yellow school readiness bags are available now at every Boston Public Library, which includes a t-shirt, fun activities, and surprises for students and their families. Families also continue to participate in our Family Play Weeks camp, which is pictured here at Margarita Muniz Academy. The Learn to Play camps are designed for children ages birth to 5 years old and their parents and caretakers. Our comprehensive summer programming keeps our students active and engaged while they are out of school, and it gives them the opportunity to strengthen their academic skills while discovering new talents and interests through enrichment activities alongside their peers. Again, Dr. Ana Tavares, Deputy Superintendent of Equity, Community, and Family Advancement, is also here tonight to answer any follow-up questions the committee may have. BPS Transportation Director, Dan Rosengard, is also here to provide support if there's questions around the new app, Zoom. Next, I want to provide you with a fourth quarter update on transformation schools, the final report for school year 2023-24. As you know, as part of the requirements that are in the Systemic Improvement Plan, or what we call the SIP, we're providing quarterly transformation updates to the committee. The second and fourth quarter updates are part of the superintendent's report, and the first and third quarter are formal reports that go more in depth. More specifically, the Transformation Office shared an in-depth report at the October 18th, 2023 and April 10th, 2024 school committee meetings. I also provided a second quarter update on February 28th as part of my superintendent's report. Transformation schools is the term BPS uses to refer to schools identified by DESE as requiring assistance or intervention. These are schools in the bottom 10% of the state accountability percentiles. While school year 23-24 is complete, we do not yet have information on schools that may be exiting or entering status. That information will be shared this fall once DESE publishes their updated accountability determinants. As you know, primary support for our transformation schools comes from our Transformation Office in partnership with our regional teams and the school division in general. Chief of Schools and Accountability, Drew Eckelson, is here to answer any questions that may come up specific to the transformation schools. This quarterly report provides an opportunity to share updates in our 3 priority improvement areas. In the area of instruction and student academic performance, we can observe some progress and also significant urgency for accelerated growth. Data from more than 1,000 classroom observations shows high usage of the district curriculum, as well as progress toward holding students to high expectations for their work. End of the year data from the MAP assessment shows improved growth this year in 7 out of 9 grade levels in reading and 2 out of 9 grade levels in math. Our improvement strategy in the coming year includes intensified instructional coaching and expanded collaboration with partner organizations focused on curriculum implementation. We look forward to analyzing MCAS results and updated accountability profiles in the late summer to better understand achievement patterns and to help refine our improvement strategy. In the area of school climate and culture, we can see that survey results for staff and students are quite similar in our transformation and non-transformation schools. We are also trying to improve, but these results show more positive feelings from students, educators, and families about their school communities. In the area of attendance, we see both reductions in absenteeism and great urgency for further improvement. Transformation schools show the same 4 percentage point reduction in K-8 chronic absenteeism as non-transformation schools, and showed a greater reduction in chronic absenteeism at the high school level than non-transformation schools. However, overall rates of absenteeism remain higher in our transformation schools, particularly at the high school level. We continue to try a range of strategies to address attendance, including extensive outreach this summer. Further addressing the attendance issue is a critical part of our improvement strategy. And I think, as you remember, the Win the Day campaign we did in Region 8, which was a high school region, as a pilot, and we intend to expand on that come fall. One further area to mention is hiring. The BPS Office of Human Capital and the Division of Schools continue a close partnership around transformation hiring. We posted positions early and have focused on a range of supports for schools. As of early July, we have submitted hiring recs on 90% 90% of our transformation teaching vacancies, higher than last year and a higher percentage than non-transformation schools. Overall, we see progress on several indicators, but we will continue to feel the urgency to further accelerate student academic performance. We look forward to the upcoming year and to updating the school committee on our progress. Relative to facilities, you received a memo yesterday updating you on our facilities improvements and our ongoing work to prepare our school buildings for the return of students in the fall. The memo includes updates on ongoing projects, MSBA's accelerated repair program projects, pools, the status of 11 major projects under capital planning, and on the Ruth Batson Academy, formerly known as BCLA McCormick, the Melvin H. King South End Academies, and the Blackstone Elementary School. Deputy Superintendent of Operations, Sam DePina, and Interim Chief of Operations, Brian Ford, are also here tonight to provide you with any further answers to your questions. The memo will be posted on the school committee's website, bostonpublicschools.org/school committee. Finally, a few bright spots. The Office of Health and Wellness are holding pop-up events on Wednesday in July at Walker Playground, which is 550 Norfolk Street in Mattapan, from 4:30 until 5:30. Families can participate in games and activities while learning about health and resources. Snacks, water, and giveaways are also provided. School may not be in session, but the BPS team is working hard to give our students and families a wide variety of opportunities and activities this summer that are both enriching and fun. 18 students from Boston International Newcomers Academy, which we call BINCA, all recent immigrants to the United States, spent 2 weeks sailing from Boston to Maine with the nonprofit World Ocean School. Students learned to read nautical charts, tie knots, and steer the ship, and develop team-building skills, all while living aboard the schooner Dennis Sullivan. Several of the students kept a ship's log of their experiences, which is translated into 4 languages at worldoceanschool.org. One student wrote, "My favorite part of the day was driving the boat at the helm, and I saw some dolphins that were in the water close to the boat." The student also added, "I woke up to do anchor watch at 4 in the morning, and that was hard." And I bet it was. What an incredible, immersive learning opportunity for these students. I wanted to also share some good news from Boston Day and Evening Academy. Through a program called BDEA 2.0, the 5 students pictured here participated in internships related to the construction trades as part of their high school experience. The BDEA 2.0 program, initiated with a grant from the Barr Foundation, is designed to promote better outcomes for Black and Latinx students. 29 students participated in partnerships with different organizations, including Tremco Construction Products Group. This group that you see here, Raymondo Antoine, Chris Lewis Copen, John Herrera, Jonathan Montero, and Macy Thompson, went one step further and signed the inaugural cohort of students in the Rising Stars Achieve Green program, which supported them to follow the International Union of Painters and Allied Trades apprenticeship pathway. Having met certain requirements, these students are now eligible to complete the final steps toward becoming apprentice glaziers and a step closer to careers in the green construction trade. Congratulations and best of luck. In late June, about 50 students from several of our high schools participated in a peer mediation training at Emmanuel College, where they discussed issues related to school discipline and ways to de-escalate emotional or difficult situations in the classroom so that all students can be involved with caring for others. The members of the English High School baseball team, our 2024 Division 5 state champions, were celebrated for their success and hard work last month during visits to the mayor's office and the Boston City Council. Following a rally, members of the team threw out the first pitch at the Red Sox game on Friday the 28th. Again, congratulations for an amazing season and to the entire team. And that, Chair Robinson, concludes my lengthy superintendent's report.
Wow. Thank you, Superintendent. I'll now open it up for questions and discussion from the committee.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And thank you, Superintendent, for the report. I say, Mike, thank you for your hard job and each school committee meeting. I appreciate that your hard work. Good luck in your new time or new opportunity in your life. Okay. I have some question. En el reporte pude darme cuenta que tuvimos un aumento de estudiantes de 1,100 estudiantes comparado con el año pasado.
In the report, I could see that we had an increase of 1,100 students in comparison with last year.
Yo creo que esto es muy bueno porque significa que estamos dando más apertura a más estudiantes.
And I believe that, and I think that this is very good because we're opening more doors for more students.
Yo quiero agradecer a todos los maestros, paraprofesional y personal que está trabajando en el verano.
I would like to congratulate and all the teachers, paraprofessionals that are working during the summer months.
He pasado por algunas escuelas que tienen el programa y he podido ver qué entrega, cómo están estos maestros preocupados por nuestros hijos.
And I have had the opportunity to go through some schools, and I could see the dedication that these teachers have for our students, for our children.
Gracias por cuidar a nuestros hijos y por crear buenas memorias del verano de nuestros hijos.
Thank you for taking care of our children, and thank you for creating those good memories of summer for our children.
Okay. Lo próximo que quiero preguntar es sobre los trabajos de verano de la escuela.
My next question is regarding summer jobs for school students.
En el reporte, gracias por enviarnos el reporte a los miembros del comité escolar, veo
In the report, thank you for sending it to the members of the school committee. I could see.
específicamente en la escuela Blaston, establece que estará cerrada, ¿verdad? Entiendo. Pero me gustaría saber un poquito más cuál es el plan en los trabajos de verano para la escuela Blaston, tomando en cuenta todo lo que muchos padres han venido diciendo sobre el deterioro, sobre el que pasa con los pisos, con los baños, ya que nos abocamos en otoño. Si podemos compartir o darnos una actualización sobre qué deben esperar estas familias sobre el plantel escolar de la Blaston.
So, also I would like to speak about the Blackstone School. I know that right now the Blackstone School is closed. I would like to know more about the plan. The parents have expressed concern regarding the conditions of the school. We want to know before fall what is going to happen. You know, we were talking about the conditions of the floors, bathrooms, and the infrastructure in general.
Great. So actually, Deputy DePina, do you want to? But I'm also thinking, CO. Yeah, I'm not sure if Brian or interim COO Brian Ford. And I will say, Blackstone, so that was actually where I went my first day for the summer school. And so they have a very heavy schedule of summer programming. And so the building is very full and alive in so many ways. And so this will be one of the things about what we can and can't do relative to repair and so forth. But if you have specifics.
Yeah, just real briefly before I turn it over to Mr. Ford, we are very cognizant of the requests and needs that the community's been asking for at the Blackstone, and we're going to continue to work with our partners to explore what's possible and when in what budget cycle. So we are doing a lot of work to the Blackstone incrementally, and we could speak a little bit more about what that is.
Good evening. My name is Brian Ford, Interim Chief of Operations, and thank you for having me here tonight. This summer, we don't actually have a lot of major projects that are happening within the Blackstone because of what Deputy Dr. DePino was just saying in terms of the building being occupied. But what we do ensure is that we are able to make minor repairs throughout the building. So when that comes to the flooring crew that's being working in the building, to make sure that we're replacing some of the tiles that are in that area, repairs to the ramp that's in disrepair out front, as well as some of that entry facade way, we're able to make some of that improvement. And then we also have a sealing crew that goes around and a painting crew that goes around within those spaces, so we can provide as much of a refresh to that building for that community as possible while we still work on figuring out what the long-term plan for that space is.
O sea que podemos asegurar entonces que antes que comience el periodo académico del año que viene vamos a contar con algunas mejoras que van a poder los padres y las familias, los estudiantes disfrutar esto.
So we could say that before the next school year starts, we're going to see some improvements that parents and students are going to be able to enjoy.
I would say that you'll see likely refreshments to the existing infrastructure. I'm not sure if you could call it a level of enjoyment. It's definitely going to be clean. We definitely do a very deep cleaning throughout the entire building. You'll see that there's additional lighting that may have been repaired, replaced, ceiling work that would have been repaired and replaced, tiles that are repaired and replaced, as well as the exterior ramp that is being refreshed as well, as much as we can do while the building is being occupied.
Y los baños también. Los baños, los pasillos, la cafetería, necesita atención urgente.
So do the bathrooms, cafeteria, hallways, floors, these are really in the need of urgent care.
Yes, we're aware and we are making those improvements and sensitive to that as part of our summer cleaning and refreshing.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
And Dr. DePina, do you want to just address, there are dollars for us to look at the Blackstone relative to the overall work that needs to be done to the building in the capital budget?
Yeah, that's right. So we work closely with our city colleagues with the capital budget to make sure that there was some dollars earmarked to study what's possible next. We did do a similar study of many years ago, but that study's been outdated. So we're going to take this opportunity to take another fresh look in the current context of what we're trying to do, and we'll be able to provide more of an update as that work is going.
Thank you.
De nada.
Thank you.
Yeah. Mr. Tran?
Yeah. Hi. Just a very ignorant kind of question. Now, you mentioned the software that will be helping out in
Buses.
terms of buses. Would you talk a little bit about it? How does it help in cutting down on late buses? And is that a GPS type of software?
It is. I think Dan can probably get into the details of it, but my lay understanding of it is that it gives us a sense of ridership that right now we don't have. And it gives parents pieces of information about the bus arrival, delays, where the bus is in ways that we don't currently have. So we're in the driver workforce is been wonderful in as the students get on, being able to both use the software for the summer routes, which could help us be more efficient with those routes as we see like how many students are using which routes, but also as we start to think about the training for parents so that parents know how to use the app. So I think there's a couple of things that we're trying to pilot right now to make the fall that much easier going forward. But as far as the technical specifics, Dan?
Yeah, thank you, Superintendent, and thanks for that question. I'll try to be brief because I could talk about it all night. But I think some of the primary benefits, one is we're replacing paper directions with GPS navigation, which is long overdue, but especially when there's substitute or standby drivers running a route, that makes it much, much easier for them. And in the past, we would see probably the biggest challenges when someone was doing a route for the first time with a paper printout. So that's one big thing. The second main one, as the superintendent said, is this allows us to track ridership because the bus drivers can tap the students on and off the bus. And so whereas before we've never had accurate data on how many students and which students are riding the bus, we'll now be able to gather that data and use that to improve the efficiency of routes. And then I think the third big one, and I'll try to stop after that, is from an operations standpoint, we were entirely reactive in the past, in that the only way we knew that a bus was running late was if a driver reported it or a parent called in to report it, and then we had to pull up the GPS on the map and figure out where is the bus, where's it supposed to be right now, what's going on. Now, and I would invite anyone to come join us in the second floor one day during morning or afternoon buses. But now we have kind of a giant map up on the screen with little green dots for all the buses out on the road, and any buses that are running late switch from green to red, and instantly somebody in dispatch at any of the bus yards or from our operations team here can say, oh, that bus just went red, what's going on, what do I have to do, and follow up immediately. And so, we're still learning with the system and figuring out exactly how we'll use all this information to improve our operations and our SOPs and all that. But it just gives us a lot more real-time information that we didn't have before, so we can switch from kind of a reactive mindset to a proactive mindset.
Thank you. I hope that I won't be hearing more complaints from parents that say the waiting time for their children out there is too long. I hope that they're going to cut down on that. Thanks a lot. Thank you.
And the only other thing I would say is there will be a learning curve, and so with the start of September, I think we will still, especially as we go from 200 buses on the road to 640, we will see a learning curve initially, but I think it's going to hopefully help us get better quickly.
Great. Thanks a lot.
I have the question for transportation too, if you finish.
Oh,
Yeah, sorry. The transportation, the superintendent say the transportation benefit 3,000 students, right? The 3,000 students, how many is the Boston, exactly Boston Public School? Because I have the charter and Boston Public School. How long is the charter? How long is the
Yes. You have that figure?
Yeah, I don't have the exact number, but I think it's in the ballpark of about 2,500 students for BPS opted in for ESY transportation. And then for Exam School Initiative, we're estimating that about 250 students are riding those buses. They're kind of open to anyone participating, but we think it's about 200 to 250 students. And then the remaining, I think it's about 250 students are charter school students doing ESY. So it's around those numbers.
Dan, in a given year, with the 21,000 students that we transport, what number actually is charter?
During the school year, it's about, I want to say it's about 6,000 to 6,500 charter school students.
Much larger.
So it's about 25% of the total student population that we transport.
Yeah. Much larger.
More than I thought.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Superintendent, for your report. First of all, my sympathy to the colleagues in the IT department on the passing of Mr. Horgan, who, Horgan, excuse me, Andy, right, who did so much over the years. And to Mr. Racine, your leadership in this department has been incredible for a number of years. And people know you comment about, what you do for these meetings and something, which is like your part-time, fun little side job compared to what you really do. And, I remember standing in East Boston High School with you with all the work that you did early in the pandemic to get all students Google Chromebooks, and then standing there as students were coming in to have it repaired and replaced and figure out how to make them work. And you made that happen for all of our students. And most folks don't realize that you're also a national leader. You are incredibly well respected by your peers in other large districts around the country, and I know how much you are called on by the Council of Cities, Great City Schools to help advise other districts as well, and you do that without thought for time or anything else. You just give to help all of our districts improve technology, and there has been a scourge of districts across the country that have been hit by hackers and have been shut down, and how you sleep at night, I have absolutely no idea. Just worrying about that happening to Boston, but I know you have been part of task force nationally in looking at that and how to protect and take care of our district from a technology viewpoint, and so I thank you for that. And the district is sad to see you go. I know the superintendent is as well, but fully understand your decision. But thank you for what you have done for this district. And you're not the only Racine who has helped Boston Public Schools as well, so I know it has been a family tradition. So thank you. Superintendent, and some of the things of your in your remarks, I was really glad to hear about the increase in ESI. It has been brought to our attention in public comment about how, you know, we thought it was open enrollment and then it was blocked, and I'm glad we were able to increase that. And we should look to continue to increase that, and I know you said, and I know it's always been two parts. Part of it is open to everyone, and part of it is targeted initiative. And we need to make sure that that continues to be.
Yeah, and I just want to do a shout out because she's in the audience, but Dr. Draper, like, part of this is her willingness and flexibility to serve all students. And so that in part, you know, has enabled us to, you know, be able to get more students in there, so.
Great. Well, thank you for that, and it's an important initiative. I was also happy to hear the number of 3,000 students in credit recovery, and how do we feel that's going to impact specifically graduation? I know we always hold the graduation for credit recovery students at the end of the year.
So I think I could talk for a long time about this, so I won't. But
You and I both.
I think that one of the bright spots or the glimpses was that our dropout rate, and I reported this, but in many districts, dropout rate increased dramatically. In our district, it ticked up, and I am not undersizing that. Like it ticked up, and any tick up we want to be on. But post-pandemic, you've seen dropout rates like really increase multiple digits. And ours ticked up, our graduation rate slightly ticked down. What was extremely hopeful was that in the extended engagement, we were up like 3%, which is a lot of kids. That tells us that our students are staying with us, our engagement efforts are working, our credit recovery and the support that we're giving students to give them the confidence and the support to be able to graduate is there. So we have a lot of students in that pipeline, and credit recovery over the summer is one of the places where if students don't participate, they fall behind. And so they then re-enter for the school year in the fall where they are behind a grade. So it's very hopeful to me, and I've gone by multiple of the credit recovery sites. The students are engaged. There's multiple ways we're doing it. Some do just purely on the online. Others are in small groups or working with tutor or working with teacher. So it's really varying to what the student needs. And I think that versatility is critical to making sure we're meeting kids where they are. So this is something that to me is as I go around 3,000 high school students, hopeful. We're also being flexible, knowing that our high school kids want to work and need to work. So where we're able to, being able to allow them to use technology flexibly to complete their credits so that they can also have a summer job. So we're really working closely with PIC and all of our partners at the city side to create as much of a flexible program as possible.
Excellent, thank you. Two more points. You talked about transformation schools, and particularly you mentioned you've seen some progress, and at the end of year MAP data said 7 of 9 grades increasing in reading and 2 of 9 in math. And I wonder if you could just, and I know we're probably waiting for MCAS scores in the fall to kind of validate it. I think MAP is considered a leading indicator, right? Not and MCAS is more of a lagging indicator. But I'm wondering what you're thinking is the difference between the two. Is it because of the equitable literacy work and, know,
Yeah.
has been a little bit longer. Help me out, you're thinking.
Yeah,
on that.
and I think Schools Chief Eccleston, you can certainly weigh in on this. I think, you know, we started with putting kind of the fork down around literacy early on, and I think, you know, that always takes when you're introducing a new way of looking at curriculum, and in our case, all of the work we're doing to calibrate instruction and grade level access of that instruction. We're starting to see that fruit. I think on the math side, we did a bunch of work this past year doing the same thing in terms of beginning to calibrate math and introducing different curriculum. I think we will start to see that as well. I also think that, you know, things like our tutoring, our acceleration academies, coming up with different ways for students to be able to practice their skills and rebuild skills that might be missing on the math side. That's something that will be kind of in full force this year. So anticipation would be we start to see that. But I think because the gap was so significant to start with math as well, it's going to take that much time, a little bit longer, to be able to approach to close that gap. Dr. Eccleston, I don't know if there's anything else, your insights you want to add?
I think, Superintendent, you said it well. I would just remind the committee and remind the public that immediately returning from the pandemic, we saw a sort of significant and quick increase in math outcomes for students both on MCAS and MAP. I think what we're starting to see now is that the sort of investments we've made relative to pre-K to 12 literacy is starting to potentially show some evidence, certainly the MAP data suggesting that you are correct, it is a leading indicator. We are hopeful based on the data that we're seeing around MAP that we'll see some interesting and positive trends around MCAS literacy rates as a result of that.
So as a follow-up question, thank you for that, and whoever wants to answer it. You know, we have a number of transformation schools, and you kind of made a generic statement of we're seeing, quote unquote, some progress or increase in 7 of 9. Is it across the board in all transformation schools? Is it 75%? Is it, and what I'm tying it to more is the conversation we had earlier this spring about equitable literacy, and when schools get to choose curriculum and when the district says, okay, you're moving curriculum. And so can you dig in a little bit, please, on that 7 of 9 increase, 7 of 9 grades? Is that across the board for the transformation schools? Are you seeing some things that are causing you to say, we're going to make changes?
We're going to make changes to, sorry.
We're going to make changes, what?
I didn't, could you just
Are we going to
continue
make
the thought?
changes to curriculum in these schools? We're going to say, this isn't working, we're moving to that.
I think the blueprint that the district implemented relative to literacy is instructive for the way that we have to approach math. We are more advanced and evolved as a district around HQIM, or high quality instructional materials and literacy. We made a big bet on this, particularly in terms of our implementation of expeditionary learning and StudySync. These are highly rated, high quality materials. We are multiple years of implementation. We have been slower to adopt HQIM in mathematics, and under Beth Malusky and Chief Ryan Miller, we have made significant progress in making, following the patterns that we did in literacy to make sure that we're implementing this in mathematics. We're just a year or two behind around HQIM implementation in mathematics. We will get to full implementation of that within the next year.
And I understand that, and you don't want to keep changing because it becomes disruptive for teachers, which becomes disruptive for students if you're changing curriculum, right? It's once you've decided on one. But I do, as we talked about with Dr. Chen earlier this year, you know, schools still often have a choice of curriculum. And when you go and talk to school leaders, well, I chose this for K to 2 and I chose this for, 3 to 8, et cetera. And I'm wondering if we're narrowing down where we're seeing, doubling down with curriculum that we're seeing results from.
Yeah, we have done that. And so we have district-supported curriculum that the district is purchasing for schools and providing all the professional development associated with that. That's the district's commitment to schools. We allow schools, in some cases, to make choices different than that, but we have 2 expectations. One, if you're not going to choose the district-supported curriculum, you need to complete a racial equity planning tool. And number 2, the materials you do select have to be highly rated by EdReports or Curate. And so you may choose a different curriculum, but they have to be highly rated. And so we've gotten to a point now where the vast majority of our schools are adopting the district supported curriculum, the materials that we are paying for as a system, and that we are providing the professional development through Chief Ryan Miller's team.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. And Madam Chair, I just want to explore one more area, if that's okay. It's about the, thank you, Mr. Eccleston. Dr. Eccleston? Dr. Eccleston, right, Dr. Eccleston, sorry about that. And that is in operations. I read with interest this memo, and I love to see all the different projects going on, particularly, summer and planning, but many are being done this summer. I did have a couple of questions in particular about air handling, if that's okay.
That's COO, Mr. Ford.
Oh, okay. So, I can't help but comment on a day that was 97 degrees as I was leaving Charlestown this afternoon and have a broken AC myself, that, I feel for our students and our teachers in hot buildings, and they're not getting any better, right? This is continuing. And I look at the list and I see, for example, about chiller replacement, air handling, and I know we say we're up to 90+%, but in many cases that was putting a unit in a window in a classroom, right? So it doesn't cover the cafeteria, it doesn't cover the auditorium, it doesn't cover the bathrooms, the hallways, that type of thing. So it's a positive step, but we got a long way to go. And in particular, I think of one school, the Elliott has 3 buildings. The middle one that we renovated a few years ago on Salem Street was designed and built for air conditioning. And to save money, a little bit of money at the time, air conditioning was pulled out. The unit was not put on the roof. And it was erroneously stated in a community meeting that it's because of school committee policy that air conditioning can only go in buildings that are used during the summer. It's no one in this room said it. Don't worry about it. But I can state pretty emphatically that school committee policy does not exist. And if it did for some reason many years ago, Madam Chair, I think we should certainly think as a body in saying any work being done, we should be putting in, air conditioning or appropriate cooling in any building that we're working on. Long way of saying, I see 2 that have chiller replacement. 1 has an air handling unit replacement. 3 having cooling tower replacements. Are we looking at any buildings that could handle central air? And I would think it'd be more economical to put 1 unit in once than 100 window units, so to speak. Sorry, long way to get at it.
No, that's all right, and I
Last
definitely
thing you need is hot air on a day like today, right? But you understand what I'm getting at, right?
Absolutely. So I think I definitely appreciate the question. It definitely makes a lot of sense for us to be looking at total solutions every time that we go into a building, especially for the first time that we're going to be there, so we don't have to revisit it. When it came to the air handlers that are being replaced currently, the chillers that are being replaced currently, those are for buildings that are currently making their way towards end of life and don't have another option for us to make sure cooling is provided throughout those entire spaces, so 20 and 30-year-old devices and pieces of equipment. Putting in the window units was our way for us to provide the thermal comfort in a short time period over kind of what it is that total ventilation, which comes with a large overhaul and oftentimes a large capital project for an entire building. We are actually moving forward with 3 buildings that are in-between solutions right now. They were not able to handle any of the air conditioning, and so we are going to be able to provide heating, ventilation, and cooling in some of these schools, so we go in and are doing the work once. When we get to reviewing buildings that happen to be new builds, such as the Elliott School, a lot of times when we're working with engineers, they design for 80% of days. 80% of used days, and that's why you might see an over-engineering situation where they pull out something like the cooling, but we could always ask for it to be put in place, and that's something we'll definitely exercise in the future.
Thanks. I bring this up as an example, as I suspect we may have some other buildings like this because of decisions made in the past. It was designed for it, and then, let's save a little bit of money, we don't have to put it in. But it would be I think a fairly simple fix, and then you've really transformed the building, no pun intended. So Thank you for that. And while I have you here, if you don't mind, and if it's not you, if it's Mr. DePina, that's fine. I see on the list of the Ruth Batson Academy, the work that's being done this summer. I do seem to recall specific discussions by the chair and myself asking about the potential for lockers and lights for the very dim hallways. Is there, and I didn't see that on the list.
Yes, so good afternoon, Brian Ford, Interim Chief of Operations. I forgot to mention this last time, but I'm definitely mentioning it now. Yeah, we were working on the lockers, so I do have to figure out what the delivery on that is. We didn't explicitly mention it. The work that we have listed for the Ruth Batson Academy is mainly for the work that's happening to outfit the Dever portion of the building.
So that we can handle the students coming over from the Hyde Park building. Right, absolutely.
We didn't forget about the other requests. So I do want to make sure that it's clear. We do have our electrical team that's going out there and doing troubleshooting. And as they work to bring in additional conduit for making sure we can run the PA systems between both buildings to communicate effectively, they will be making sure that we can, where possible, refresh the lighting in there. I think a lot of it has to do with the fixtures, so we'll have to continue to work on different solutions in that space.
Excellent. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And thank you both, I think, for coming back from vacation for tonight to be here for us. Thank you for that.
Great.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay, yes. I too want to give my thanks very much to Mr. Racine for all of your work. It has been tireless. I have watched you. I have heard what you've been doing. I've seen you in action, and you will be greatly missed, but we really want to thank you for all that you have done for us for so many years, so. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. O'Neill, for asking most of my questions.
We think alike, Madam Chair.
Right, but I still do have couple, one of the things I know, maybe we don't have this information yet, but I knew that you said that there were approximately 6,000 high school students that applied for jobs, and over half of those are kids. Well, I know we have many more than 3,000 kids, so I'm wondering if we know if there were kids who applied but did not receive a job through this process.
Thank you, Chair. So right now, to the best of our understanding, students were able to get jobs if they applied. It's like every week, the numbers come in differently. So that's the latest, and it's I believe over the next 2 weeks, that's when the numbers will jump further, because that's when we're making our last placements. In addition to the PIC jobs, in addition to the youth jobs, there's obviously students have in our fifth quarter also have jobs. So what we try to do for that end of August report is pull together all of the employment opportunities that our youth had. What I was very pleased about was a couple things. One was, first of all, our mayor's commitment that any youth of age that wanted a job could have one. Secondly was the flexibility of the team to do on-site registration, which in my experience with secondary students is huge, because we always expect them to go to whatever it is, and for us to go do job fairs, answer questions. I think that's really what prompted the numbers to be so much higher this year. So, and that's just huge flexibility for our team, the city team, and PIC, most of all, that really enabled that to happen. So I think each year we get better and better at this, and we'll have the final numbers, Chair, toward the end of August.
Great. I have a similar question about the number of elementary age students participating in fifth quarter, because I had raised a concern before the end of the year about particularly how were we reaching out to families who would have the need but might not make the registration, and were there any particular outreach from classroom teachers to families around kids for whom they would love to have seen?
So Dr. Tavares, it might be interesting for you to give your lens on this, but this was really where it was a joint effort of family liaisons, classroom teachers for sure, of being able to identify with school leaders, students and families that we needed to do the initial outreach to. And it was a rolling registration, which I also think has been incredibly important, because as families find out, sometimes they get boxed out if there's a hard deadline, and instead the team was committed to that flexibility. So I think for all those reasons, we've been able to really fill our programs, really in a healthy way. But Dr. Tavares, did you want to add anything else?
I mean, Superintendent, you covered it really well. But is there anything in particular that would be helpful to know? Any details?
I just didn't know whether there was, okay, so for one group I was concerned about were some of the migrant students. Were they able, I know people are moving around, but are there kids that have been able to participate? Or in schools, I'm particularly thinking of our transformation schools, and whether or not, I don't know, we don't have any data that says the percentage of students in this school that are actually participating in summer programming. And do we see, schools where there's been a high number of people registering, and are there schools where there are kids who are at great risk but are not participating? To begin to see who's taking advantage, or is aware of what the resources are as we figure out how we're going to help close gaps for our kids.
Well, thank you for that clarification. I would say that the team and I are most proud of the outreach that we've done with our migrant families. I would say that that's something that we as a system and as a team, which includes all of you as well, we can be very proud of. Our family liaisons, to Superintendent's comment earlier, they have been the linchpin to make sure that our families have access to information, know what programs are available, are able to even navigate the web, and even not the web, the page where all the information of summer is uploaded. It's been an incredible opportunity for us, having been so hands-on in receiving families, that relationships were built when they first arrived, and those relationships we've been able to tap into in order to make sure that students are enrolled.
Do we provide, I know we provide transportation for select programs. Do we provide it for anyone who needs it, or are there other programs for which parents have to get their kids there themselves?
I would say this year we really focused on making sure that our students in ESY were the ones, according to their IEPs, had transportation. That was our focus for this summer programming year. And we tried to make sure that families that chose programs also understood where the programs were, so it can make it easier for the families to facilitate taking their child. So the concentration of availability of transportation, again, were for students with IEPs who required transportation, because we wanted to make sure those students had that support.
Okay, yeah, that helps to understand sort of what the options and choices really are.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. My last question goes back to the issue around the improvements in both the reading and the math. And I was wondering if we know the grade levels. And I was interested particularly in when I think it was Dr. Eggleston was talking about the choices schools make around their curriculum. And my question is, as they make those choices, do they look at the handoff and transition from one grade to the next to figure out whether the choices are making sure that students are progressing in ways that make sense for students versus a curriculum choice that may be great programming, but in the long run isn't giving our kids what they need? Yeah,
so I know Dr. Leslie Ryan Miller is in the audience, and since this is a curriculum question, or Dr. Eccleston, either one, but what I will say is, as they're thinking about who's going to come up, what I will say is that I think that the team has done such an incredible job raising awareness of the importance of the curriculum and the fact that it is high quality, that now within the internal conversations that are happening with schools, we're much more focused about students grade to grade. And, remember, when we get achievement, the achievement speaks to last year. Mm-hmm. And so we tend to then zero in on that grade when it's actually the following grade that we really need to be thinking about addressing. So I think because of that, the calibration of the regional network and the work that Dr. Ryan Miller's team is doing on the curriculum side, it's lending itself to think more K-12 or pre-K to 12 than we've ever before.
Hi, good evening. And Chairperson Robinson, I heard just a portion of your question. Do you mind just repeating it so I make sure I answer it in full?
Yeah. So I'm interested in understanding basically what the superintendent just said. So what's happening as kids transition from one grade to the next? Because I know there may be a K-2 curriculum and then a 3 to 5 or whatever. So my question is, as kids transfer from, or get promoted from grades 2 to grades 3, does the curriculum support and connect that learning so that there isn't a gap in the learning? So that whatever the math skills that you got K-2, are they picked up and continued without missing a beat in grade 3? Or does the, so how do we understand where we are making progress
Sure.
in certain grades, but or not, and wanting to understand as much about where we're not making progress and why,
Got
as
it.
where we are?
Okay, thank you for repeating that. So I think this really stresses the importance of standards-aligned curriculum, and that's one of the pivotal pieces of high-quality instructional materials, is making sure that the standards are addressed in the grade levels where appropriate. And so any high-quality instructional material that's deemed by DESE should do that. It should make sure that if in grade 2 they're looking at, I'm just saying this, but fractions, that it's addressed in the curriculum at a specific point in time. And so HQIM ensures us of that, but one of the pivotal things that we have to do is make sure that our educators understand that and understand the importance of staying on pace with the curriculum. One of the things that I talked about when I was here in the spring is sometimes in classes seeing that there's some over scaffolding happening, which means that we're taking more time in a particular area, which then means students are missing something else because our time is so finite. And so it's having those conversations with teachers so they understand, here's a skill that a child might have in week 5 of school, and it comes back again in week 8, and them understanding that, and also understanding that they have to hit all these points so that our students aren't missing particular standards that then either make it so that when they are engaged in an assessment, they haven't seen the material before, or when they get to the next grade, they're not prepared because they haven't seen what comes before that, what the prerequisite is. So that's one of the reasons why we put a lot of stock in HQIM, because it does that hard work of standards alignment for us, but our job is really the professional development that goes along with that.
Great, thank you.
May I have a follow-up question to that? Yeah, thank you for explaining everything pretty clearly. I continue to have...
I knew it.
I continue to have concerns, or let's ambivalence about how do you come up with HQIM definition. And when you meet with schools, maybe the school administrations, principals, director of the curriculum, and of course, there are some schools that did not want to use the HQIM material, and prefer to stay on with their own standard curriculum or whatever.
Sure.
What are the conflicting reasons for not choosing what you decide as a HQIM and their own decision of staying on their curriculums, and how do we reconcile those differences?
Sure. So we really lean on DESE around, they have a site called Ed Reports that outlines there's a rubric in terms of how they evaluate curriculum as being HQIM or not. And so we really rely on Ed Reports and Curate, as those are, Ed Reports is national. And so they do the heavy lift of the laborious work of going through the curriculum, making sure it's standards aligned, vetting it for cultural responsiveness, and making sure it is free of biased content. So that's kind of our starting point in terms of how we deem something as HQIM. In terms of district-supported curriculum, we have pulled from that list of HQIM and then done our own assessment of the curriculum using a racial equity planning tool, and really engaging with various constituents in the community. One of the things, just to share, I'm really proud of, I don't know if you remember, it was months ago, there was a gentleman from BLA, his name was Andrew Pierre, and he came to public comment and just talked about the curriculum that they would like to see in classrooms. He is a member of the mayor's youth task force. And after that, we were in close communication, and he and some other students who were on the mayor's it's the mayor's youth council, they have now formed an advisory group specifically for teaching and learning. And so I just say that to say that in terms of student engagement and the content that they find engaging, I'm really happy to have their voice at the table going forward. That being said, I think one of the things that is hard, well, one, change is just hard, so I want to put that out there. And also, many times, particularly in the secondary space, teachers have created the material that they're using. And sometimes they get a fabulous response from students in terms of their engagement. And sometimes there is the student achievement that follows that we'd like to see. Sometimes there's not. And it has to be that students are engaged in the curriculum, that they see themselves looking good in the curriculum, but also that we're enabling them with the information they need to make the academic progress that we expect them to make. And so that's really the push with HQIM. We've had some pushback, but one of the things that I've found really helpful is myself or members of the teaching and learning team, we go out, we meet with the teachers, we talk through their concerns, and I'll be honest, sometimes they have some valid concerns, right? They'll say, this curriculum, I want to see more novels that reflect this. And we take that back to the vendor, and quite frankly, the vendors have been very helpful in making those changes because we spend a lot of money with them. And so they need to know that having, us as customers means that sometimes we need changes for the benefit of our students. So I think doing that has brought more schools in, and we're really getting to a place where folks who are not using HQIM are fewer and further between. So that's where we want to go. And again, we do try to be understanding that this is change for folks, and it has to happen for students. So I think conversations are one of the things that have helped to move the needle, and the support of school leaders for sure.
Another follow-up question, because curriculum development and teacher training was part of my duty about 40 plus years ago. Okay. So I understand. When you talk about teachers who develop their own curriculum and students respond to that positively, and now we are trying to install some changes, and of course there are going to be opposition, there are going to be pushback. I understand that because I went through that as well. The question I have is, how sure are you that once they adopt the curriculum, they will follow through with it, rather than reverting back to their own curriculum?
Sure. So this is where we really rely on our school
Crazy
leaders.
questions.
This is where we rely on our school leaders, and we also rely on the liaisons in the regional model to be in classrooms, to see what's happening, to ask questions if something's not being used. I want to be genuine and say, yes, there are times we've bought curriculum and I will go into a classroom and that's not the curriculum being used. So then that means that necessitates a conversation with the school leader, with the liaison, with the regional soup, to first get a better understanding of why it's not happening. Sometimes those reasons can be valid, sometimes they're not. And so we have to have conversations about the why and then what needs to happen. I think I gave an example last time of just a particular school saying, hey, we use this text, it's this play by an author that's from Dudley, that's from Nubian Square, that we want to continue to use. And the reaction is, you can still use that. You can use that along with the HQIM. And that's where the liaisons and coaches are helpful. They can have those coaching conversations to say, okay, let's look at the scope and sequence of the material. Let's look at what you're trying to use. Let's figure out where these things can be integrated in a way that your students are not going to miss what they should have. They have to receive standards aligned instruction. If we don't give that to students and then we assess them, it's just not fair. And so those are the conversations that we're having. And I will say our educators are stepping up. They hear that. And they also want to be heard. So we hear them as well.
It will reflect in their evaluation. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot. Thank you.
Thank you. Anything else? All right. All right. So I think we are now ready to, I'll now entertain a motion to receive the superintendent's report. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion or objection to the motion? Is there any objection to approving the motion by unanimous consent? Hearing none, the superintendent's report is approved. We'll now move on to general public comment.
Thank you, Chair. The public comment period is an opportunity for parents, caregivers, students, and other concerned parties to make brief presentations to the school committee on pertinent school issues. Questions on specific school matters are not answered at this time, but are referred to the superintendent for a later response. Questions on specific policy matters are not answered at this time, but may be the subject of later discussion by the committee. The meeting will feature 2 public comment periods, with the first comment period limited to 1 hour. Priority will be given to those testifying in person. Time permitting, the committee will then open it up for virtual testimony. After 1 hour, anyone who hasn't testified will have the opportunity to do so at the end of the meeting. We have 5 speakers this evening. Each person will have 3 minutes to speak, and I will remind you when you have 30 seconds remaining. If your remarks are longer than 3 minutes, please email your comments for distribution to the committee. The time that an interpreter uses for English interpretation will not be deducted from a speaker's allotted time. Speakers may not reassign their time to others. Large groups addressing the same topic are encouraged to consolidate their remarks or choose a spokesperson to provide testimony. Please direct your comments to the chair and refrain from addressing individual school committee members or district staff. Please state your name, affiliation, and what neighborhood you are from before you begin. We will begin this evening with our in-person speakers. We will begin with John Mudd and Deidre Manning. John Mudd?
Good evening. My name is John Mudd. I'm a longtime education advocate in Boston and a resident of Cambridge. BPS used the allegation of segregation as a way to justify assigning multilingual students into the general education classes with ESL. I think many thought, and many continue to think, that they are following the progressive Boston tradition of desegregation in supporting this plan. They are wrong. During the discussions of the 50th anniversary of the busing decision, I was surprised to learn that Judge Garrity himself, the champion of desegregation, recognized and authorized the grouping of English learners so that they could have the benefits of bilingual education programs. Acknowledging the harm that the dispersal of EL students could do in the implementation of the initial deseg order, he issued a supplemental order on June 5, 1975, that specifically authorized the clustering of EL students as necessary for their education. Just as Judge Garrity recognized the harm that the dispersal of multilingual students under the deseg order could do to these students, BPS should recognize the harm the proposed inclusion plan could do for these students. You should reverse course and stop the simplistic implementation of inclusion for multilingual students into general ed, and should instead focus on increasing access to native language and the expansion of bilingual education programs that the evidence shows will benefit these students. As part of this process, look at the data. You say you are evidence-based and data-driven with a focus on student outcomes. If you look, there is existing data in Boston about the inclusion of multilingual learners in general education with ESL, which should inform your decisions about further implementation of the inclusion plan for these students. Already, about 40% of ELD 1 to 3 multilingual students are assigned to Gen Ed with ESL. This is the exact model of ML inclusion that is being planned. Data given to you for 2023 already shows that only about 5%, I repeat, 5% of all English learners
30 seconds.
passed MCAS. Only about 30% are meeting their English development targets. School committee should now ask the district to provide outcome data for the 2024 access tests and the 2024 MCAS results for these students when they are available in the fall. With those results in hand, you can then make a data-driven, evidence-based decision about whether to continue further inclusion of these students in general education. Thank you. Please follow through and get the report.
Next speaker is Deidre Manning.
Good evening. My name is Deirdre Manning. I'm a Dorchester resident, parent of two daughters, one a BPS student, the other a charter school student. Please cue to the 1 hour and 2 minute mark of my testimony from the June 17th meeting for my previous testimony that tied in the discrimination that my great-grandmother faced and the discrimination my mother advocated against in the 1950s when she tried to get the principal of the Hyde Elementary School in Roxbury to provide the required letter of recommendation for Jane Dietrich, her 8th grade student of West Indian heritage. Jane Dietrich ended up somehow getting into Northeastern University despite being prevented from attending Girls Latin. Unfortunately, she only completed 1 year of college. I suspect that if she had been allowed to attend Girls Latin, she might have had the support of mentors she needed to earn a college degree. Children who for the last 3 years have been denied a seat at an exam school have lost an opportunity that can't be regained. What Boston Public Schools is doing may be legal, but it is not equitable. I was encouraged to hear that Vice Chair O'Neill consulted with outside experts recently on the issue of school choice. I hope that school committee members would engage with parents so that they can better understand the inequities of the exam school policy. Being provided with a 2 or 3 minute period to inform school committee members is not an efficient use of anyone's time and does not give parents or stakeholders a platform for effecting change. During the pandemic, I helped my children with virtual school and worked my paid job late into the night after they went to bed. Even if I were aware of the virtual meetings of the exam school task force, there was no way I could have participated. The interests of all exam-eligible students in the city were not represented or advocated for as part of this process. High-achieving students like Jane Dietrich should not have been excluded from educational opportunities in the past. Please don't perpetuate a policy change that is excluding different students now. Thank you.
Thank you. We will now transition to virtual testimonies. Our next speakers are Mohammed Lewis, Edith Bazil, and Mike Heichman. I do not see Mohammed Lewis in the meeting, so Edith Bazil. You can start.
Thank you. In 2023, BPS NAEP 4th grade Black-White reading gap was 23 points. It almost doubled to 42 points by 2022. 2023 MCAS data shows no literacy growth for Black students. Using maps as a summative assessment data, as was done here tonight, is frankly dishonest. Focus, the early childhood curriculum, widened literacy gaps for over a decade. and it is not validated by Ed Reports. Children who fail to read become adults who struggle with joblessness, homelessness, and mental health issues. This year, the chair said, quote, "The whole city thinks we should feed them, clothe them, do everything but basically give birth to them. And oh, by the way, can you teach them to read and write?" She added, quote, "Superintendent Skipper, I've got your back." Perpetuating anti-Black stereotypes while ignoring failed literacy policies exacerbate intergenerational Black wealth gaps and places Black families in a constant state of fight or flight for the right to read in BPS. 50 years after desegregation, Black students are still segregated into poorly resourced, chronically underperforming schools, while white and Asian students are clustered into wealthy, high-performing schools. Skipper's first action was to modify exam school admissions for white comfort and endorse moving the O'Brien, named after a Black man, to white West Roxbury. Meanwhile, Skipper renames chronically failing schools after great Black leaders while abandoning racial equity. Dr. Carter G. Woodson, a 1930s Harvard researcher, Black Harvard researcher, affirmed the benefits of Black educators long before the Johns Hopkins study. Yet Skipper pushed out Dr. Granson, Chief of Equity and Strategy, then eradicated racial equity initiatives Black educators fought for since desegregation. She moved the Office of Equity under Human Capital, and in a final blow to racial equity checkpoints, disarmed the vision of the OAG task force, sending the message of, if you're Black and advocate for racial equity, step back. When will this school committee hold Skipper accountable for creating an evidence-based racial equity infrastructure for continuous
30
improvement
seconds.
instead of promoting token programs that don't address closing long-standing gaps for Black students? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Our next speaker is Mike Heichman.
Mike Heichman, Dorchester. Soon the school committee will evaluate the superintendent. Will you invite the community to participate in this essential activity? Or, once again, will only your voice matter? And who will evaluate the school committee? The public does. They're called elections. Whoops. Unlike every community in our state, you are not elected by the community and thus not accountable to the public. You are political appointments are accountable to only one person, Mayor Wu, and you only see and hear what will please the boss. A big part of the leadership's job is to stay and control the message. An important part of your job is to supervise the superintendent. Did you hear that Black and brown central office workers have been fired and replaced by those loyal to the superintendent? Did you hear that Dr. Charles Granson, the chief equity officer, wrote about these concerns to Ms. Skipper and was fired? Did you hear at the last meeting, silence speaks, 100+ voices beyond the trauma? Did you bother to read the report written by many past and present BPS educational leaders? The authors believe that the major reason for the retaliation and harm done to them is because they had dared to speak out in opposition to Ms. Skipper's policies. Will the superintendent or you bring this up at tonight's meeting? I doubt it. I was right. This report characterizes BPS as a heartless, vindictive, racist, and sexist organization that retaliates against employees who question their actions. This report charges that the superintendent has dismantled all policies and practices focused on advancing racial equity and has silenced employees who question these actions. This report charges that BPS is a large, complex system that cares more about optics, using backroom deals making to cover up individual scandals. This report charges that the real story in BPS is the entrenched dysfunction of central office that prevents our schools from advancing. This is a story of a cancer that is spread through much of our district. Over time, unless this disease is acknowledged and dealt with, every school and every child will be infected. Silence speaks grief and agony and calls on you to do your job and investigate these charges. What are you going to do about this report and these serious charges? Will you do your job, or will you continue to be complicit in enabling a racist, traumatic, and dysfunctional system to continue to harm many of our children and the BPS employees who have been hired to care and educate them? Thank you.
Thank you. That concludes public speaking.
Thank you, Ms. Parvex, and thank you to those of you who spoke this evening and shared your perspectives. Your testimony is very important to us. Our only action item this evening is the grants for approval totaling $3,470,693. Now I'd like to turn it over to the superintendent for any final remarks.
Wonderful. Thank you, Chair. So before you, you have 6 grants that are totaling $3,470,693. Just a few things to call out. I think the adult literacy grant, this one really is around, it's an exciting grant. It's around providing high school and English language classes to adults in Boston. So this is through our adult ed branch. It also has a diploma bearing arm, and it offers English language classes for parents. The other one that I wanted to just mention was there's a comprehensive school health grant, which obviously is helping us with case management relative to our nurses. So fully supportive of this. And then there is the intensive assistance grant, and this is the large $1,332,000 grant, and this is relative to academic acceleration academies. So these are all grants that will support our students, our staff, the forward movement of the district, and I would just appreciate a positive vote on this by school committee.
Thank you. Any questions? No? Okay. Okay. If there's no further discussion, I'll now entertain a motion to approve the grants as presented. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Is there any discussion or objection to the motion? Is there any objection to approving the grants by unanimous consent? Hearing none, the grants are approved. Okay, so tonight I wanted to have a brief discussion about the superintendent's evaluation process. The annual evaluation of the superintendent is a core responsibility of the school committee outlined in our bylaws, specifically in Article 6, Section 1D. This section mandates that, quote, the school committee will annually evaluate the superintendent's performance. Periodically, it will develop with the superintendent a set of performance goals and objectives based on the needs of the school system. The superintendent's performance will be reviewed in accordance with these specified goals. The last time we came together as a governing board to establish goals was before Superintendent Skipper joined us. During the fall of 2024, the school committee will convene to revisit our current goals and establish new ones aligned with our district's priorities. These goals will be centered on fostering high expectations for student achievement and will be accountability driven. This year, as I did last year, I have requested Dr. Stephen Alkins and Vice Chair Michael O'Neill to spearhead the evaluation process. I am pleased to share that they have kindly accepted the responsibility. We will evaluate Ms. Skipper in accordance with the standards provided by DESE's framework, instructional leadership, management and operations, family and community engagement, and professional culture. For this year's evaluation, the superintendent's goals align to what we as a school committee shared in our summative evaluation last year. I have also asked the superintendent to share the accomplishments and challenges of the district that align to her goals. The superintendent will complete a written self-evaluation that will be shared with the committee. Each committee member is then asked to complete an individual evaluation. Dr. Alkins and Vice Chair O'Neill will compile our collective thoughts into a summative evaluation that will be presented at a special virtual meeting on Monday, August 19th. We will vote on the superintendent's evaluation at our August 28th meeting. The timeline for the superintendent evaluation can be seen here. I ask that tonight's discussion focus on the evaluation process. After members receive the superintendent's self-evaluation, there will be opportunity for follow-up conversations to answer questions regarding the content of the evaluation. Rebecca Granger, Senior Advisor to the Mayor for Youth in Schools, will help support throughout the evaluation process. Okay, now I will open it up to the floor for questions and comments from the committee regarding the evaluation process.
Chair. Thank you, Chair, for sharing the timeline. I'm more curious if we have specific dates on when we're going to be receiving the individual evaluation forms and when is expected to send back to the Vice Chair and Dr.
I'm
Alkins.
going to ask Rebecca.
I'm sure you're going to send
join
as a
us.
follow-up email, but
Yeah.
just for the purpose for the public to have
Mhm.
awareness of what those dates are would be helpful as well.
Yep, definitely. Thank you, Member Lima Barbosa. The self-evaluation will come to you on July 24th, along with the individual evaluation that you will fill out. And then those will be returned on August 1st to be compiled into the summative evaluation. So it'll give members a week to complete.
Okay. And then just curious if in the past when superintendents have been evaluated, has there ever been the public has ever participated? Is that something that just curious, because I know a lot of conversations that we have is about community process. I know this is very specific. We are the ones that are here to supervise, but just something that was mentioned, and I'm just curious on how.
Not in my tenure, Mr. O'Neill.
So, great question.
Mhm.
Evaluating the superintendent is one of our 4 key responsibilities, right? So as school board members, we set policy, and this is set by our bylaws and what's set up Boston Public Schools. So, and I know I'm being repetitive, but you've said this for the public, so I'll state it as well. We set the policy for the district. We hire a superintendent to implement that policy. We approve a budget that allows the superintendent to implement the policies we set. We evaluate and approve, ultimately approve, and we evaluate the superintendent on how they are doing against the policies that we set. So it is a key responsibility of ours, and we are expected to be informed throughout the year in how we believe the superintendent's doing. We listen to public comment, we talk to school leaders, we talk to teachers, we talk to parents, we talk to community members, advocates, et cetera, and we form our own individual opinions that are clearly informed by feedback we receive, including listening to public comment. And then we write individual evaluations, and then what Dr. Elkins and I do is put it together in a summary evaluation that is supposed to reflect the tenor. I mean, we look at what the individual votes are, right, and make sure we show what the average is, what the highs, the lows were. We look at the summary to make sure that it reflects the tenor of the comments, you know, what were common themes across it, what was someone that just one member brought up. And then we present the summary document along with the superintendent's evaluation in a public meeting, which will be virtual, and discuss it, right? So we get to see, and by the way, and this is a reminder, your individual evaluation is a public document. So your individual evaluations will be, well, that has surprised some members in the past, so make sure to state that. Your individual evaluation and the summary evaluation is released publicly and is discussed at the public meeting, at which time there is also public comment and feedback. We do not vote on it at that meeting. We vote on it at a later meeting. I think it's scheduled for August 28th, our next in-person meeting. So is there opportunity for public feedback? The opportunity for public feedback is throughout the year. Quite frankly, we heard comments tonight from how people feel the superintendent is doing. We also talk to school leaders, teachers, et cetera.
Yeah.
And that informs our decision process. I hope that helps.
No, it does help. Thank you for going a little bit deeper too on just like the expectations of the overall process and for the friendly reminder that we're constantly hearing feedback not only about the superintendent but just the overall district. And I think that of course will influence our own personal opinions. But I was more asking if there was like a formalized way with the evaluation. But I think it's totally fair. Not only through public testimony, but through the ways that we are engaging with family members and staff and educators. So thank you for that, and I think it's good to remind folks at home as well that their voices are being heard in these different avenues. So thank you. That is all for me.
It is, yeah, and I'll just say as a follow-on to that, like I don't reach my points that I make at the evaluation by myself in a vacuum. They are informed by people that I'm speaking to in the district throughout the year, and observations I've made, visiting schools with the superintendent, et cetera, and whether I'm with her or not, the feedback that I have heard. And so that informs
Right.
the evaluation that I do, which is a very important part of our responsibility as a member. So, thank you. I also, if I may point out, Chair, one more comment. As much as we are evaluating the superintendent on the 4 standards set out by DESE and the goals we set last year, I point out the other important piece is at the end when we make recommendations on areas we want to see the superintendent focus in on, because those become the goals of the following year. So what we're evaluating the superintendent on in the context of the DESE standards are specific goals that we as a committee last year put in the summary evaluation and voted on that this is what we want the superintendent to focus in on in the coming year. So that second piece that you do is equally important to your evaluation of how she has done in the past year, what you're saying you believe is important she focus in on in the next year.
One final, because I just remembered that Diego is no longer here. Would this process, even if let's say we had a student here, would the student representative still be able to participate, or is it just for the voting?
No.
The student would also be able to participate. Okay, just curious.
Yeah, no, student participated last year.
Well, just a quick comment. I've been involved in this kind of evaluation of the superintendent for the last 6 years. Criteria set forth either by DESE or by this board, in terms of evaluating the superintendent, are supposed to be objective, and they are objective. But in my own assessment and in my own reading of past evaluations from members, I do somehow see subjective comments in it, and I'm just reminding everybody that subjective comments should not be part of that because they are public documents. Thanks.
Thank you for that.
Yeah.
Thank you. Nothing? Michael, any other comments? Okay, well then, I think we will look forward to receiving the materials and look forward to our conversation on August 19th.
Wonderful.
And in the interim, I just want to say that as people are going through their process, there will be opportunity for people to have direct conversations with superintendent as part of their thinking.
No, thank you for that.
So, okay. All right. We'll now return to public comment.
We have one public speaker report, Edith Bazil.
Nikki Giovanni said, quote, "It is not who you attend school with, but who controls the school you attend. There is nothing more important than knowing where your child will be attending school." The McKinley schools have been overlooked in every phase of Build BPS. Then along came the Green New Deal, a press conference, promises of a rebuild, and visioning meetings that turned out to be nothing more than empty, broken promises, making the Green New Deal a hoax when it comes to racial equity. The McKinley schools, which serves primarily Black students, suffer with no gym, no library, no cafeteria, no science lab, and a crumbling infrastructure. Its structure is broken on the outside as well as the inside. What has this administration done to advocate for these students? Nothing but a performative name change and appointing a new white leader with no experience and no family and community input. The Timothy was closed with callous indifference to Black families and community. The Shaw community was tortured with threats of grade configurations that resulted in departure of a beloved principal and trauma for students, staff, and family. It is insulting that the majority of Black, non-white populated schools receive no attention from the Green New Deal, while majority white and Asian populated schools receive rapid response, full rebuilds or renovations. Meanwhile, the Office of Family and Community Advancement has been busy driving out more Black and brown leaders and ignoring the voices of the community. $3.8 million was wasted on outside vendors who come up with nothing more than a rubric and a building condition analysis. Now the district is starting over with more money on another consultant, which sounds like a public relations stunt, a political cover to avoid making hard decisions during an election year. The Green New Deal has been a deep money pit for vendors, leaving taxpayers with uncertainty on school closures and mergers that has kept families suspended in a torturous state of uncertainty that undoubtedly has driven many families, especially Black families, out of BPS. This is totally unacceptable and a
30
sign
seconds.
of incompetence from this leadership. Why does BPS need to hire an outside consultant instead of listening to families and communities who are cultural insiders using racial equity as a lens to determine the impact of decisions? We've had multiple conversations over the year, but yet there is no family and community engagement. Where does the school committee stand on this?
Thank you,
It's
Mr.
time to
Zill.
speak up.
Your time
Thank
is
you.
up. Thank you.
Thank you. That concludes our business. Oh, excuse me. Is there any new is there any new business?
Well, just a very quick request. We all heard one of the frequent concerned citizens regarding the implementation of grouping multilingual learners with. I share that concern. I strongly share that concern. As a matter of fact, I came here without having without having the benefit of having a bilingual program. So I struggle pretty rigorously for the first 10 years of my life. So anyway, I'm requesting that just to follow up on that. I'm requesting that the office do provide outcome data for the 2024 access and 2024 MCAS of ELD 13 ML students. That before we decide, or we can make any kind of recommendation or advice, to the ongoing implementation of the inclusion program. Thank you.
Chair, I want to second that request. You got there first, but and I think Chair and the superintendent, I don't know if with that report, but also just speaking on the work that Chief Gamera has been doing with the OMM team. I've been advocating, and the community has been advocating for a while when it comes to the Cape Verdean Creole, Duolingo. We've been having meetings already, so I think that could be a good opportunity of sort of providing an update and just looking at a little bit micro of like what the district is already trying to do, also considering how it's going to be impacted if and when the inclusion education program is implemented, like how is that going to impact that work? So just wanted to give a shout out to Chief Gamera for taking that, your request seriously about really looking into the Cape Verdean community, because for years it has been requested. We can go back to many superintendents and mayors, and for once we're seeing some movement and some realistic action steps, not only from the district, but like including the community and folks that have been doing a lot of community engagement over the years. But as we know, more community engagement doesn't hurt, to make sure that we're actually meeting the needs of the folks that are actually present and the students that are going to come. So just wanted to echo what committee member Tran said, and if we can emphasize on
we will. So thank you both. We'll be when we do the access and the MCAS report, we will report out by all the ELD levels, but with a particular concentration on the ELD 3s, as well as the transition of students who become former or what we call FLEP students. And then additionally, on the programmatic development side, we'll make sure that that the Chief Gamir talks about all the exciting work we're doing in the creation of new dual language programs, transitional bilingual, heritage programming, really all of it that's happening. We have a bunch into DESE already for approval, so we'll make sure that that OMME presents all of that information.
Thank you. Just a very quick question. Maybe this question should be directed to us, as a matter of fact. What is the status of the ELL task force? I know it's disbanded. Are we going to reopen or reorganize that soon?
We want to come back together. That's what we were talking about, wanting to come together in the fall to talk about goals, outcomes. But an unanswered question from last year is whether the task forces, ELL task force, Opportunity and Achievement Gaps task force, what structure can we have so that we make sure we have those voices represented, and so we need to figure out what that structure is going to be to bring that group back, or to bring those voices back, whether it's that same structure or another one. I think that's more the question, but yes, we very much want to make sure.
With your permission, when is it reorganized, whether I like to be part of it?
Yes.
Same.
Okay.
Yeah, when I say follow thank you for the question. It's important for multilingual students. It's important too if you, the meeting is the last meeting, right? The year. Start the year proveyendo result. What happened in the access exam for the student? What is the result? What happened for the student? What is the evidence? What is the progress, for the next year? I think it's important know that part.
Yeah, 100%. We'll time it so that when we do it, we can also do it with the MCAS release. So I'll work with schools on that to make sure that both get presented. The other exciting thing that's happening for our overaged multilingual learners is we will be launching and opening BADA East over in East Boston. And so we'll make school committee aware of when that happens so that you can be part of that. We're really excited about that for our students.
Yeah, at some point, I would really like us to be able to understand comprehensively all of the different things that are going on with our work, particularly with the multilingual learners. One is to really understand what families want, because sometimes I feel the voices of families get lost, and I know not every family wants the same thing, but would love to understand what are the kinds of variety of things that families are asking for, and at the same time, understanding what actually is moving the needle. Because sometimes what we want may not be the thing that actually improves outcomes, or maybe, where is the learning and where is the coming together of all of the parties so that our students in the long run get the best of all worlds. So that's really the sort of that voice clarity, and then to understand the myriad of wonderful things that are happening, and understanding again qualitatively which of those things are actually helping our kids and young adults make the mark, because it's critical. And I think seeing that, particularly this summer, the number of multilingual learners that have taken advantage of the variety of programming speaks to the excitement and need and the dedication of families of wanting their kids to get this. So, you know.
That's right. And I think we were having some of those really good, deeper conversations with our St. Stephen's community around what parents want. I mean, that was a lot of the input we took that led to how we ended up shaping the inclusive ed work. And I think, to your point, Chair, sharing the data of student performance is really important for parents and families to see, so they can start making connections around what is moving the needle and what's not moving the needle.
Thank you. Okay, thank you. Well, that concludes our business for this evening. We will meet virtually for our special school committee meeting on Monday, August 19th at 5 p.m. So if there's nothing further, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn the meeting. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Thank you. Is there a second? Second. Is there any discussion or objection to the, oops,
Madam Chair, may I just point out that the purpose of that special meeting,
right.
the only agenda item is to receive the superintendent's self-evaluation publicly and the summary evaluation.
Yes.
So I don't want any misconceptions that there will be long superintendent's report or other reports or
Okay.
anything like that.
Thank
It
you.
is a special meeting just to
Okay,
talk that issue.
all righty, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, is there any objection to approving the motion by unanimous consent? Hearing none, the meeting is adjourned. Thank you all, and have a good night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Odin?